The News 4 Rundown starts now.
Welcome in, everybody. I'm Jim Antley, and here's a look at some of the stories we're following for you tonight. Thousands of children in the United States are at risk of deportation after federal legal defense funds ran out. We'll speak live with a group that provides counsel to unaccompanied children, what they fear could happen in the days ahead. Plus, the apparent violation of safety procedures as an American Airlines jet takes to the skies at the same time as President Trump's helicopter was taking off from the White House. And then there's a new offensive weapon heading to the district, and he's a hometown hero. What we know about Stefon joining the Washington Commanders. But first, new details from Montgomery County and a deadly crash involving what police believe to be a stolen car. Today we learned a 58-year-old father on his way to work at the National Institute of Standards and Technology was the one killed in the collision yesterday morning in Germantown. Inside the suspected stolen car were 7 young people. Behind the wheel, a 13-year-old boy. News 4's Mauricio Casillas has more tonight on the father killed and the investigation into this horrific tragedy.
William Vance Payne's family is still trying to process this devastating loss. His wife Lisa said in a brief statement that he was kind and generous to a fault. A family friend tells us that he was nearing retirement. He was only about 3 miles away, a 10-minute drive from work, when he was killed at this intersection. A father of 5 taken in a heartbreaking way. Payne's wife, understandably, is still too shaken up to speak about the loss, but wants him to be remembered as a loving person. William Vance Payne went by Vance and had a long career as a mechanical engineer with the National Institutes of Standards and Technology, or NIST. A spokesperson for NIST sent us a statement that reads in part, quote, Dr. W. Vance Payne II worked at NIST for 29 years, most recently serving as a mechanical engineer in our engineering laboratory's Building Energy and Environment Division. Our thoughts are with Vance's family, friends, and colleagues during this difficult time, end quote. Montgomery County Police say a group of 7 kids, 4 girls and 3 boys, were riding around in this white Kia that was reported stolen hours after the crash. The 13-year-old boy behind the wheel was rushed to the hospital in critical but stable condition. The other minors were also hospitalized, though the severity of their injuries isn't clear. Police say 2 of the girls are 14, while the others are 13 and 12. The 2 other boys from the Kia are 15 and 12. The circumstances surrounding how the minors were able to steal the car remain unclear. Neighbors who live nearby said they were stunned to learn about what happened.
I can only imagine one of the family members getting that call, right? Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm stuck. I can only imagine. God, my heart's out for the family and other people that were involved in the accident.
The county's crash reconstruction unit continues to investigate, with police saying the investigation may take several weeks or months. Any charges stemming from the crash would then be determined by the Montgomery County State's Attorney's Office after evidence is presented to them. An online fundraiser has been set up by loved ones to help Payne's family as they navigate this difficult time. Reporting in Germantown, Mauricio Casillas, News 4.
The Virginia Department of Health has confirmed the first known case of locally acquired dengue fever in Northern Virginia. It marks a rare instance where the virus was spread by a mosquito inside Virginia, not during international travel. Instead, they believe a local mosquito bit someone who returned overseas with dengue virus and later infected the second person. The best defense is to use insect repellent and eliminate any standing water. More serious charges could be on the way for the former FBI agent who admitted to stealing nearly $1 million in cryptocurrency. Patrick Yero was back in federal court today, where a judge released him to custody of his parents, and he may be confined to his home in Ashburn, Virginia. As part of the conditions of his release, he also had to put up a $50,000 bond. Maryland voters will decide in November whether to clear the way for a new congressional map. That would favor Democrats in all 8 of the state's U.S. House districts for the 2028 elections. Today, Governor Wes Moore signed the congressional amendment. In a state where Democrats now occupy 7 of the 8 House seats, Republicans are calling the effort a blatant power grab. And today, Virginia Governor Abigail Spanberger took a stand against data centers. The governor announced that the State Corporation Commission has ordered data centers to cover the cost of transmission infrastructure built exclusively for those facilities across the Commonwealth. The governor says the move protects families and small businesses from shouldering the cost.
Showers, hot and humid conditions. Yeah, they're all still sticking around. Look at the heat index right now. 95 degrees in the city, 89 Hagerstown, 94 in Richmond. So very warm, very humid conditions and rather unsettled, too. We saw a few showers and storms, especially early this morning. Now this afternoon, just very isolated sprinkles around the area, really showers around the area. Let me show you where they are right now. Nothing around the D.C. area, but a couple of showers in towards southern Maryland. We're tracking those and some back farther to the west. A lot more on this and the 10-day forecast coming up soon.
All right, we'll see you then, Doug. Thank you. The NTSB is now joining the investigation into how an American Airlines jet was allowed to fly while President Trump's helicopter was taking off at the White House. This incident appears to be a violation of safety procedures put in place after last year's deadly midair collision over the Potomac. Our Northern Virginia Bureau reporter Drew Wilder has video from Tuesday's incident and what the FAA is now saying about it.
That's Marine One proceeding as briefed.
Tonight, the FAA says it's investigating how a commercial jet full of passengers was able to fly so closely to the military helicopter carrying the President of the United States on Tuesday. In this video obtained by NBC News, you can see Marine One lift off from the ellipse. Then you see the helicopter fly just south of the Washington Monument. Moments later, an American Airlines flight enters the frame, flying the opposite direction. The White House says the president was never in danger, but questions tonight about why air traffic control allowed air traffic to continue for upwards of a couple of minutes despite Marine One's flight path. Jeff Huddleston is a commercial airline pilot who regularly flies out of DCA.
How much time should there be between Marine One announcing that its flight path has been approved, it's taking off, and holding the rest of that airspace?
Well, there's always specific procedures in place that allows both things to happen simultaneously. And usually helicopters are flying at relatively low altitudes. There shouldn't be any conflict if both aircraft were following the normal procedures. Now, if one of the aircraft strayed from that, that's when problems occur.
The Marine Corps issued a statement saying in part, quote, Marine One's flight on August 4th was routine. Washington National Tower did not delay the helicopter crew, ask them to hold, or otherwise alter their flight profile. Shortly after the American Airlines flight passes Marine One, air traffic control holds other flights.
We'll be doing a momentary delay.
The FAA saying today in part, quote, the air traffic controller was in contact with both the commercial pilot and Marine One during the loss of separation. A loss of separation means the two aircraft are too close together. Tuesday's incident comes following intense scrutiny in the wake of last year's deadly American Airlines flight crash when the plane collided with a military helicopter over the Potomac River, killing everyone on board. Following the tragedy, the FAA issued heavy restrictions on helicopters operating near Reagan National Airport. I've talked with multiple pilots today who have all been pretty critical of air traffic control. One of the pilots I talked with is actually a former Marine Corps helicopter pilot, and he says he never flew with HMX-1, the squadron that flies the president. But he said after reviewing all of the evidence here, he wouldn't have felt comfortable lifting off in that situation with anyone on board, let alone the president of the United States. Reporting in the newsroom, Drew Wilder, News 4.
Thousands of immigrant children, some as young as 18 months old, who are in the U.S. without a parent or guardian, are at risk of navigating the complex immigration system alone. On Friday, the federal government ended its contract with a network of nonprofits that provide legal services to children who show up at the border alone. That means an estimated 25,000 children are losing legal protections, and advocates warn this could lead to mass deportation of these children. Joining us now live is Jennifer Anzardo-Valdez. She's the director of Children's Legal Services with the immigration advocacy group International Rescue Committee. Jennifer, thanks for taking time with us. Your group was vowing to continue to represent unaccompanied children in immigration court. What have you seen this week after the funding lapsed?
Thanks so much for having me. So, unfortunately, we have seen a lot of uncertainty. We've seen exactly what many providers have feared would happen. children who had an attorney a week ago no longer have the same support. Providers have had to make really difficult decisions about pausing intakes or reducing services, some even facing difficult decisions about whether or not to continue their program. And I think what concerns me the most is that legal representation for children is much more than just showing up in court. These children are losing access to very specialized advocates who understand how to work with children.
Jennifer, let's walk through how we ended up here, because this funding freeze is the result of a fight over information on unaccompanied children. Acacia Center, as you know, for Justice, the nonprofit that oversees the contract with the federal government to represent unaccompanied children, said last week, quote, the government is withholding payment for work that has already been performed in order to extract confidential information about kids, information the government has no right to, end quote. Jennifer, what information did the government want, and why are immigration groups pushing back on this?
So I can't really speak to specifics of what was requested of Acacia. I think I'll let Acacia directly answer that. But what I can tell you is what governs us as attorneys, and that's that information about our client is confidential, and confidentiality is of foundational trust that we build with our clients. And, you know, the children that we serve, many of them have experienced pretty horrific abuse and trauma and exploitation. And building that trust really takes a lot of time, and protecting client confidentiality is a fundamental part of that relationship.
Let's talk about the children you serve, because someone could be at home and wondering, how can an 18-month-old baby be in immigration court? How do children end up as your clients?
So unaccompanied minors are children who enter the United States without a parent or legal guardian. They come from all over the world seeking protection. As I mentioned, many of these children really face pretty horrific conditions in the home country and have suffered abuse, have been trafficked, have nowhere to go, been abandoned by their family members, and they come to the U.S. to seek protection. And, you know, at IRC, we believe that it's important for these children to, when they appear in court, to have a trusted advocate that can talk to them and help them navigate this system that's very, very complicated.
A very complicated issue, and thank you for shedding light on it. We so appreciate your time, Jennifer. And Zara Valdez, we thank you again for joining us live tonight.
Thanks so much for having me.
Still to come tonight on the News 4 Rundown, a number of D.C. families are left without a home after a fire. Plus, more changes ahead for the Preakness Stakes, the break from tradition that the governor hopes will keep the horse racing event in the Charm City. And a hometown hero coming back, the expectations as the commander signs Stefon Diggs. Right now, a number of D.C. families are working to pick up the pieces after a fire ripped through their southeast apartment building. D.C. Fire tells us 28 adults and 16 children were displaced. News 4's Dominic Moody has the latest as families say they're still unable to get inside.
We just wanted to show you just the sheer scope of how large this fire was and the damages that are left behind. Many of the residents say they still are unable to get inside to get some key medicine that they need for their family members.
You just saw black smoke at first, and then you turn around and it was just like fire under the black smoke. You could smell a fire as soon as you opened your apartment door. The smoke was what you could smell.
Danielle Mitchell describing the chaotic scene after parts of her home were engulfed with smoke and flames. Mitchell, along with her daughter, mother, and several dozen of her neighbors, were inside of the southeast apartment building. She says residents haven't been able to get back inside to get critical medication and see what valuables are still salvageable.
My daughter's medicine is in, but they got a padlock on the door, so we can't even get in.
My brother's urn, you know, my mom's burial things, her urns, the Bible that they gave us for his passing. I lost both of them last year, you know. So for me, Those things are important.
DC Fire and EMS say they received a call about a fire at this southeast apartment building on East Street. When firefighters arrived, they could see the fire along with these thick clouds of gray and black smoke. Fire investigators say the fire spread to the roof of the building, and they were able to evacuate the 12 occupied apartments that had 28 adults, 16 kids, along with dogs and cats inside.
They were able to search the entire building and make sure everyone was out. But they were unable to extinguish the fire right away. After about 20 minutes of trying to put the fire out from the inside of the building, the units withdrew from the building and used the tower ladders and the ladder pipes to extinguish the fire from the outside.
DC Fire says none of the residents were injured, but a firefighter was transported to the hospital with minor injuries. For the Mitchell family and her neighbors, they say many were preparing for back to school, and Mitchell's daughter was preparing for her birthday this Friday.
Her book bag was supposed to be delivered today. I don't know where they're going to deliver that to. Her school uniforms were delivered last week, so they're sitting in here and probably still in the plastic bag. My daughter has experienced a lot of loss in her young life. Trying to stay strong for my daughter.
All of the residents say they are glad none of their neighbors were injured, but want to ensure their memories aren't reduced to rubble.
Just to look at everything you done worked on. You know, everything I felt like I was building up to. But at the same time, I just have to remember that God got me this, and it's going to get me somewhere else.
DC Fire says that they are still working to determine what led to the fire. In the district, Dominique Moody, News 4.
A major announcement today about the future of the Preakness Stakes in Baltimore. Maryland's governor announced that the race will be moved to a later date to encourage more Derby horses to participate. For the first time, the race at Pimlico will happen on a Sunday and 8 days later than it would normally happen. This will give horses that participate in the Kentucky Derby more time to rest up, and officials hope will lead to more horses running in the Preakness.
Preakness can and will remain the second jewel of the Triple Crown, and nothing will change that.
Governor Moore also announced today the state has secured a TV rights deal with NBC Sports to guarantee coverage of the premier event for years to come. NBC Sports is owned by NBC Universal, the parent company of NBC4.
Was a hot, humid day. We saw the showers across the area a little bit earlier. Now, a really nice shot down towards National Harbor. You can see the bright blue skies, few clouds out there. 88 degrees, dew points above 70. So it is warm and very sticky across our region. Heat index right now sitting at 95. Temperature-wise, we're in the 80s everywhere. 84 in Frederick and in Hagerstown, 86 Manassas, 87 in Fredericksburg. But add in that humidity, and it feels like 100 in Waldorf. 95 over towards the Patuxent River area, 97 in Easton, and right now 92 at Dulles. So yeah, heat and humidity continue even in the 7 o'clock hour, and that's the way we're going to be for the next couple of days. Also tracking some storminess. One area of storms back towards Hardy and Hampshire County and Mineral County back towards West Virginia. Another little shower moving towards Gaithersburg right now in Germantown, and then a bigger shower in towards areas like parts of Prince George's County and down towards portions of southern Maryland. But most of us are on the dry side, and that's going to be the case over the night tonight. But there are more showers around, and still an unsettled atmosphere will continue. 91 degrees, hot and muggy, scattered afternoon storms. Plenty of sunshine tomorrow, too, but it is going to be quite hot. The heat index tomorrow, I'm going for a heat index of around 100 degrees out there on your Thursday. High temperature, 91 the next few days, and a good chance of storms. Best chance Friday and Saturday. Now, none of these days are going to be washouts, but we are going to have a chance for storms. Friday and Saturday, the best chance for severe weather as well. Sunday, most of us stay on the dry side, so if you have plans this weekend, it's looking pretty nice. And then next week, well, even hotter, 94 Monday and Tuesday. Chance of storms Tuesday and Wednesday, but better weather back into the 80s late next week.
All right. Thank you, Doug. Changing the future of farming. That's the goal of one local farmer who's trying to bring indoor farms to towns across the country. News 4's Amy Cho went to Area 2 farms in Arlington to see how it works.
They're vertical to allow you to grow lots of things in small spaces.
When you walk into Area 2 farms, you'd never guess you're in the middle of a busy city like Arlington.
We're here, we have microgreens.
Orrin Falkowitz used to work in national security, but decided to leave it all behind and pursue his passion for indoor vegetable farming.
They have more nutrients, they're fresher, they're better varieties. You get to keep the dollars in your community.
The business runs on a farm share model where customers can subscribe to pick up weekly boxes of produce. Falkowitz hopes to eventually expand all around the country.
Our hope is to build these farms all over so that everybody has a farm within their community and gets to know their farmer by name.
In addition to the classics like kale, the farm also grows some rather unusual greens.
Okay, it's like a tasting flight.
I sampled some of the more out there offerings. First up, the purple shamrock leaf.
That is sour, but it's good.
Then the blue cheese leaf, known for being stinky.
Yep, that's definitely
Okay, so now some fresh
stinky.
mint.
And finally, the electric daisy, which numbs your whole mouth.
Tingle.
Yeah, it's like kind of numb. Whoa, yeah, my mouth is like tingling now.
As for sustainability, Falkowitz says indoor farming does use more electricity, but they save energy by not having to transport the food.
Food travels thousands of miles to get to the grocery store, and along that way it loses something. And so really the core of our logistics is to be able to move the farm and to not move the food.
A new model aimed at possibly revamping the future of farms. In Arlington, Amy Cho, News 4.
All right, talk about some exciting news from the Commanders.
Absolutely.
We're just you feel like old friends because you're calling him Steph, and he's a Terp. Now he's a Commander.
We do have a lot of mutual friends. Coming up a little later in all the years, I actually talked to Steph's longtime strength speed coach. It's going to be a lot of fun, but you got to hear what the folks from Boston are saying about the newest Commander, Stefon Diggs. Look at that.
All right, by now you have heard the news. Stefon Diggs is coming home. You've been waiting for this. I guess the timing was the surprise, but you thought it was going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, this seemed like it was really in the works for some time now. And talking with folks, I think, Washington had a real interest in adding a veteran wide receiver. And boy, did they ever do it by signing Stefon Diggs. Obviously, he played his college ball at Maryland, high school ball at Good Counsel. Last year, he was in New England, was a super productive receiver for a really good football team. Remember, Patriots won the AFC Championship. They were in that Super Bowl. Steph Diggs went over 1,000 yards for them. He was the leading receiver for their young quarterback, Drake May, a guy that May learned he could really trust. So I wanted to check with the folks from Boston in what Washington is getting in Steph Diggs.
Well, he has amazing hands. Like, he's just reliable. He's steady. He's gonna make great catches, contested catches. He's tough. I think his route running is super key because at this age, he's not a burner anymore. Like, he's not going to be a deep threat. He's going to hurt you in those middle intermediate passing games where, you can get 12 yards a catch, and he's going to be reliable. He's going to do it every week. And that's just his game at this point at age 32.
So here's what's so interesting about Washington bringing in Stefon Diggs. Last year, Washington was going into the season with Terry McLaurin and a bunch of receivers they liked, but they had never seen them do it. This year, we all know what happened last year. Terry McLaurin got hurt. The year was a disaster. This year, it was kind of a similar situation. You had Terry McLaurin and then a bunch of receivers that are good prospects, young players. There's a lot to like, but there's no certainty. Steph Diggs gives this offense certainty. Steph Diggs is a guy that is going to come in, run great routes, has elite hands, will get command of this offense in a hurry. And I think this move makes so much sense on so many levels. And Jim, we got to be honest in the discourse here. For a while, we were talking about Brandon Ayuk. Right. And there was real reason to think maybe Ayuk would land in Washington. Played college ball with Jaden Daniels, was in San Francisco while Commanders general manager Adam Peters was there. Brandon Ayuk's social media antics drove a real wedge between the organization. And that's what I think made signing Diggs so much easier. This is a win for the organization. He makes them better the day he steps on the field. This one makes sense on a lot of different levels.
It really does. Plus, it's exciting. As a Terp,
absolutely.
People at Good Counsel, they've got to be stoked too.
It's a big signing offensively. Terry McLaurin, if you go through his career, he was drafted in 2019. McLaurin has never played in an offense with a receiver as good as Diggs on the opposite side of him. And I know some folks might wonder about the development of the young players. I think it's going to work out just fine.
Boy, what a different summer than last summer, huh? Oh, this is so exciting. All right, JP's going to have much more on Diggs coming up. Coming to the Commanders, that's on all ears. That's at 8:30. Also later, you can watch it on YouTube. We'll be right back for News 4 at 11. Hope to see you then.